Welcome to Chefs in the City. I'm Ann Fisher with my co-hosts Rich Terapak and Steve Stover. And the last time we heard from Avishar Barua, the chef and owner of Agni in the Brewery District and Joya's in Worthington. He's one of 20 chefs from Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, nominated this year for Best Chef Great Lakes. Today, we welcome Dan Riesenberger of Dan the Baker fame, another James Beard nominee for Best Bakery in the country. Dan, congratulations and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
That's
it's an honor
wild.
To be here.
It's very
and an honor to be nominated.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Unreal.
Wow.
Thank you.
For real.
But wow, I mean, what you've been baking professionally since 2007.
Yes.
Did you think in terms of James Beardishness?
No way. Not at all. It's like been, the drive has been making the best version of what I can make, like what I want to be making, not just the version, like it's like the best ingredients and the best flavor and the best texture I can. And that's kind of led us here, which is really amazing to see how the reaction has been, and how much appreciation there is. And then the James Beard, it's like crazy, to me, but it really is an honor for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And what do you
Right from the
consider
hood,
some
too.
of your signature items?
Well, the country bread is like my favorite and most signature item, I feel, and the thing I kind of keep my finger on the pulse the most. But the croissants are so endearing. People love them so much. I mean, people as well.
I'm going to start moaning.
They're so good. So the whole selection of stuff, but the croissants are a real specialty, and the sourdough breads. Yeah. I mean, then recently the panettone, it's been a big specialty. That I've been personally focused on. And the Atlantic wrote up.
Huge shout out in the Atlantic.
Yeah,
Tell us about that. How'd that
unreal.
happen? Yeah.
Honestly, it was I got a call from Ellen Cushing from the Atlantic in December. That was like, hey, are you interested in being part of this article? I was are you serious? Yeah. I was like, yeah. I was like, is this spam? No, of course I'm interested.
That's right.
So I hit her back and I get back right away. I'm like, hey, what's up? She didn't get back that day. She was like, oh, I was about to call you. And I was like, did an interview over the phone. And then I was like, I can send you a loaf. Right now I have baked this morning. I'll just send it out on a Wednesday. She was like, well, you might not get it until Friday or till the article's published. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. Sent it out, and I was like, maybe it's going to be a hit piece because her stuff is a little bit critical of food trends, which is fine. I understand, and that's very valid. And especially something so, expensive, it draws a lot of flack,
right?
Unnecessarily, in my opinion. But so I was like, well, send her thing, and she tried it. She was like, this is amazing. And it blew my mind. And then I think she changed the article because of it, because it was all glowing about it, but also had the details about it that are critical. And she had bought one from Gucci or one of the fashion houses that was a trash loaf, had been disappointed by that. And so it had ours, and it was she was blown away and, wrote this glowing article about it. And it just really blew up our holiday season in such a positive way. We had so much attention. I woke up and just had 100 orders for panettone in the coming days.
Wow.
From
and
all
it was
over
sustained
the place.
from all over the U.S.
Right.
And so because we had just started shipping that season, in earnest.
Yeah.
And to be able to have that much recognition for this new product that we're doing, because it's only 2 years that we've been offering it in full. And it was amazing. I mean, really very challenging season because we had to do all of this on the fly. We're making and selling and shipping all of this with the small crew that we have. We weren't prepared. But
And reimagining it at all? I mean, thinking about different versions, different iterations?
After the fact, kind of, because Christmas season was so crazy.
Yeah.
But now I'm okay, fine tuning, the one I brought with me, has a couple tweaks to it and polishing the formula to make sure it's efficient and it's as delicious as possible, so it's working well.
It's funny because panettone just came on the scene about
it's been for
3 or 4 years ago.
It's been in Marshalls for years.
Yeah, it's been around for centuries, literally.
I've been seeing TJ Maxx.
Yeah, but it's you see a $7 thing in Whole Foods or whatever. It's okay, whatever. Why do I want that?
Yeah.
People are charging $100. You're really?
It's funny, but I think it was 4 years ago.
Now it's a thing.
It is.
My wife was checking out the groceries at Kroger's, and they just handed her a free one.
Yeah.
Because obviously it was
we can't do anything
before
with
Christmas.
this. It's a paperweight.
It's sort of like the single fruitcake.
Every once in a while,
less
Kroger's
giftable
hands
than
out
regiftable than that, for sure. So,
but there was a reference in the beginning of the Atlantic article, something that you said about a lot of people think of it as sort of the regiftable thing.
Yes.
Tell me about
No, because it's like, oh, you get a fruitcake.
Like fruitcake,
this
yeah.
is traditionally like the regiftable item.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, I got this, and I'm like, I really don't want it, but like, here's this for you. And then they're like, oh my God, I really don't want it either. And then it's like it keeps for 2 months, so you can really like get some mileage out of it. And like, I guess in a sense, panettone has been that way, like, because it's not really like.
Panettone's not sourdough.
Or
is it? Do you make it?
A
sourdough?
lot of them aren't.
Oh, okay.
Like the grocery store ones are most likely not.
Okay.
But the one that I make is sourdough, and it's a very special, like very temperamental sourdough that you have to like maintain at least 3 times a day before you're mixing the
meals a
dough.
day.
Literally, like I feed it more than I'm saying I feed myself. I'm like, I'm joking, but like it really is like you got to be on it every day, and the pH has to be exactly right for the madre.
Okay.
And if anything is like a little weird, your loaves are going to be bad. Like they just will. And I've made bad loaves recently because it's like so challenging to keep the timing just right.
Wow.
So there's a real risk to the making of it, and not only that, it's just all the ingredients are so expensive.
Sure.
If you mess it up, it's like a gallon of egg yolks. Copiah egg yolks in this season is like insane,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
It's
and
one of
bird flu
those.
season.
butter, yeah. So
Yeah.
you can't even get any at Trader Joe's.
That's a
like-
situation with the egg.
yeah, so it's
Egg
kind of
shortage,
like
yeah.
a whole thing,
Yeah.
But it's been a real rewarding and fun experience.
I guess I
to
won't
grow.
try it if you have to feed it 3 times a day. I do too. I forget to eat something.
No, like literally, it's so much.
Yeah.
Like I'm like when I'm
Amazing.
doing, I'm like, okay, I got it 3 days ahead of when I want to start the dough. I'm like, I got to take the madre out, make sure it's happy, make sure it's like rising nicely, and like that's like 9 feedings at least before you even do the first dough. It's a lot for sure.
Little shop of horrors. Feed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
feed me like, every time. No, for sure. That's awesome.
You use an Italian radiant stone hearth
I do.
oven.
Yes.
What's the magic? I remember
Sure.
Natalie's talked about their coal-fired
Yeah.
oven. What's
So back in the day in my house when I started 2008, baking out of that oven, I had a wood-fired retained heat masonry oven. So it was like you would fire a chamber for 18 hours on hardwoods, bring it up to like 1,000 degrees, let that heat infuse into the outer masonry of the oven, and then let it cool down, sweep it out, and it's 700 degrees for like 8 hours.
Oh, wow.
So
It
you
holds that
bake
long.
out of that oven,
Yeah.
on that falling heat in a stone chamber.
Oh.
So this is just to preface the current oven. So wood stone is not really like the most efficient and usable thing for a growing bakery. So I was like, okay, deck ovens are where it's at. They have a lot of thermal mass, and they're like basically stone lined, and you can charge them up to like 550 degrees is what we do, and then drop them, and then like load the oven full, drop it to 500 degrees, and it lets that kind of steam wash
Right.
over the loaves and let them like slowly expand in their steamy chamber, and then you kind of crank the heat back up to mimic the old bread oven that I had, like the wood-fired oven. So that gives the crust time to expand slowly, as opposed to like a convection oven or kind of like an Italian pizza oven that's like high convection, lots of blunt heat.
Yeah.
This is like kind of very mellow heat, allows it to slowly infuse, and then
Nurses
it,
it,
and then it get a really harsh finish.
What kind of, you said, get the load of loaves in? How many
Yeah.
can you do at the same
In
time?
this oven, it's about 125.
Wow.
Wow.
So it's like, like 25, 25, 25, 25,
Wow.
and times 8, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty sizable oven. It's like,
I'm going to see it next time.
it's
Yeah.
sweet. Yeah, you asked for
Can we
asked
have
to
a
come by
tour?
100%, and especially.
And didn't Shakespeare say the crust is the thing?
No, I'm all about the crust. That's like my
Absolutely.
100%. People, like I said, I eat a loaf, and I actually just like take the crust because I just love the crust. The
Yeah.
inside is good if I'm eating a sandwich or some soup or something. But like the crust to me, if I'm just eating bread,
just rip it off and butter
good.
that?
100%.
Yeah.
Olive oil.
Yeah, I've read that
Olive
it's
oil,
like more
yeah.
nutritious. I guess the caramelization has something
Yes.
more nutritious in it, as opposed to the crumb inside, even though it's like the same product. The caramelization changes. It's
That's the reason I like to sit next to my grandson.
yeah,
He's about 10 years old. He only eats the inside.
yeah. It's the perfect match.
Yeah.
Like, let me take that.
I always find the insane person who doesn't like the crust on their pizza. And, I'm the one that's like, hey,
Really? Yeah,
hey,
I'll take that.
let's not waste it. I think a lot of people visualize Dan the baker baking away, but you've got people who do this
I
for
do.
you now.
I do now, yes. And it's like, I love to bake, and I wish I could do like literally all tasks, but I have to have sanity in my life and like reasonable, time frame for everything. So I have a baker baking for me, and mixers mixing. It's like I do shape bread, I oversee things, I really instruct the course of the procedures and the quality of the items and all that. But I'm not always like there baking. I'll definitely be like training people on how to score, how to load, like what the vision is, and to like be like, okay, no, like look at all these 100 loaves you baked, like these 2 are good, and like the other ones are good, but not like the vision good. And so kind of keeping that like is so important to
Good management.
the vision, because it's like, it's like they see, like they want to do what the best,
Right.
but really highlighting like what is the best to me in my mind's eye is like been the biggest, like the most important thing that I've been doing in the last few months, at least, because it's my role in the last year has changed a lot from baking, because I was doing a lot of baking last year. But now we're expanding and growing. It's definitely been more of like an overseeing and like how to kind of convey that and excite my crew so that the consistency is high and that the morale is high, that we're like eating and feeling good.
Happy
and,
bakers.
Like, happy bakers and like making
Yeah.
good stuff. And they're like stoked to come to work. So it's like then everybody's feeling good, you know? So
How many employees do you have?
I think it's 8 or 9 right now. And I
Okay.
am full time too. So I bake and I'm there. And I mentioned I'm building out the facility next door.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
tell us about
expanding.
it.
You're gonna have a
Yes.
cafe and
Yes.
bigger.
Much bigger. So I'm like working on the expansion aspect too full time. So I'm there all the time, no matter what, but about 9 people.
Well, tell us about the cafe.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we are in Grandview, in the Grandview Commerce Center, and we've had the neighbors of Sbarro Test Kitchen from 2015 until last year. And they basically asked if I wanted to move into the new space or their old space, the test kitchen. And I was like, been eyeing it since they moved in. And I was like, maybe they're building it out. Maybe they'll leave someday. Not like I love them being there, but I was like, that is a sick kitchen. And it was like, okay. And sure enough, they were like last year, like, hey, you want in? And I was like, oh my God, yes. So worked it out with the landlord, and we've taken over the space.
Yeah.
And it's a super well equipped. I mean, they didn't leave any of their ovens or anything, but like the hood systems and
Yeah,
electrical and
Oh,
all of the
yeah.
like brass tack stuff that takes so much money
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
and like resources to put in was already there. So
Perfect.
we've just been like, tweaking it. And now I am building out the cafe. So it's like going to be gorgeous. And
cheek and jowl with your current operations.
yes,
It's amazing.
it's like literally just have a doorway to go through.
Yeah.
And there's like,
So
it's
what's the
same bread
vibe gonna
there.
be? What are you shooting for this?
So it's going to be an expanded version of our cafe. And if you remember like the toast bar, like we used to serve food
Yeah,
and like items there, it'll be an expanded version of that. Not a lot of seating at first. We are going to maybe expand the seating at some point, but a much more expanded retail presence, an espresso bar that's like so good. And a full
you
drink
are,
menu.
by the way, is that spoken from you're an espresso?
I'm an espresso fan, aficionado
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
And we're going to be using the Linea espresso from San Francisco, like organic beans. They're just exquisite. Snowville milk for all of the drinks and that kind of
Oh,
thing.
my.
Full drink menu, an expanded pastry menu, but not too expanded, more just like more volume of it. But then a grab and go food menu, which is really exciting because we've like never been able to pull off food. Like we did the toast bar and it was
Oh,
like
okay.
Yeah.
barely made it happen. It was too much for the space we were in. But now it's a fully equipped kitchen with a hood and gas systems. And it's
Grab
like,
and go is in sandwiches?
yeah, like sandwiches, simple salads, and that kind
Okay.
of thing to start. Breakfast burritos, porridges, like composed porridges.
Oh, my.
Just really
That's-
special stuff,
Yeah,
like
well, that's
Wow.
made with our,
That's-
the Dan the Baker.
I thought it was
you
just
know.
going to be pastries and bacon.
No, yeah, because it's like the pastries and baked goods are so good, but they're like a little more of a special occasion kind of thing. Like you go for
Yeah,
a pastry, like I'm not eating a pastry every day,
Well, special occasion for the croissant.
I could come up with a special occasion every day.
Sure. But in general, let's like just having savory food options, hearty food options is like big to me in the future.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Savory food.
Yeah.
yeah.
Looking forward to it. That'd be great.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
So,
So-
Doubling back, where did you get your start?
well, I was working at the North Star Cafe.
Okay. Did you make the?
It was always in my family, but
Well, your dad helped you build your original
did,
oven
the
in your
wood oven.
backyard, so he was obviously
my family has always been involved. Like my mom was like nurturing my food sensibilities. My dad helped me build the oven and like worked at the farmer's market for many years. And he's
I
like,
always
he helped
wondered
me
if he was
yesterday,
you.
like ripping boards for the. No, it's like that's my dad always for sure. I would be there, but like not as a regular employee because I was like doing other stuff during that time, like working at the Clintonville farmer's market or even baking. I feel like, depending on like the season of the years it was,
Did you make the praline scones? and
Yeah, I
North Star
did. Well, I
Cafe?
didn't make the praline. I did like assemble the scones, made the focaccia there, the like ham and cheese scones, which are so good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Chocolate truffle cookies,
It's
oatmeal
that's
cookies.
interesting.
Haven't eaten breakfast.
That you
Yeah.
got to start there because Kevin and
You're
Katie
hungry.
are real
Here we go. We're
perfectionists.
getting
They are such
hungry.
perfectionists, for
Drive
sure.
some of your desire to be perfect.
It really was like an eye-opening experience to work there and to like experience what it's like to be in a real kitchen. And like their sensibilities were really like, oh, this is a beautiful vision, and like really inspired me to, you know, pursue my vision of baking, you know,
Yeah.
because like they're not a bakery.
No.
Right.
Like they have a baked good component, but you know, to like expand on that, and that's like all we did. It's just bring like the stuff to the farmers markets. That was just like the most farmers markety, you know, version of it that we could do. And some of that has changed as time has gone on a little bit, but still using like organic grains for everything, Snowville milk for all of our croissants, you know, French butter for all of the croissants as well. Like really not cutting corners like that. And I think that that's some of the things that they like really, you know, value.
Yes.
Kevin and Katie.
And so does the Atlantic.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, he still sources all of his beets in Ohio. And
No,
stuff
it's
like
beautiful.
that.
And
So,
it's like they've grown so much, but they still like hold that
Yeah.
in such high esteem.
Standard.
It's important.
and good for you. I'm excited about the cafe.
Thank you.
Yeah, so am I. I read that while working at North Star, you were gifted a sourdough culture.
Yes, that's
from
like the original
Cordon
one that we
Bleu?
use. Yes. So I was just chatting with a coworker who had just taken a bread class there, and she like had the sourdough at home and had been like baking a little bit, and was like, I was like, I want to try it out. She was like, yeah, bring it in and bring me a little container of it, and I baked the first breads out of my house. Like, and that's what I basically like started making them in a larger volume and bringing them to the farmer's market, like just out of a basket and just selling them like I had bread, like here I am. And people are like, what are you doing with bread? You want like, yeah, you could buy a loaf if you want. It's like in a basket. It's so random, I feel. But that was like the very beginning, you know, so we still use that same sourdough to this day. That's like,
Well,
maintaining it
I
since then.
need sourdough.
I was thinking
Yes.
one of the items you could sell is a little bit of sourdough.
Yeah.
Let's put it, bring it up tremendously.
I
No,
remember-
we do offer it for sure. If people come in,
Yeah.
they want to buy it. Like we sell them sourdough
Oh, do you?
for sure.
Okay.
We'll sell
Oh,
like
yeah.
a quart of it, depending on the day. If we
I
have a
remember
leftover.
that when the day that my sourdough, known to me as Little Stevie,
Yeah.
passed away,
Aw.
and that was after 30
How
years.
does it
I
pass
got-
away? What
Don't
happened?
feed it.
Yeah, if you leave it and just to forget
Yeah.
to feed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And we got ours from a cooking class that we took at
Aw.
La Belle Pomme at Lazarus back in
Cool.
the 80s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back in the day, sure.
Wow.
Little Stevie lived about 30 years.
Wow.
It was a good
Sad.
life.
Yeah, for real. Well, they all have like a different blend of yeast and bacteria in them, and people think that it's like it has to be from San Francisco or it's a 300-year-old thing. But it's not necessarily true because you're like inoculating it with the old stuff, but it's like fresh flour and water, and like it will get on, kind of gain the terroir of where it is living currently.
Yeah.
So it's not like, even if it's originally from somewhere, it kind of takes
the
on
ambient
life
The
of it.
terroir what?
The
what-
terroir.
what? Okay,
So,
which
like,
is
As in wine.
flavor of
The flavor of the space,
place.
place,
Okay,
and like
gotcha.
it's going to be
Wow.
like the flour that we use in the blend that we feed it in, the like natural yeast and bacteria that's in the environment or on the baker's skin will like kind of be imparting a lactobacillic profile of its own to the sourdough. So it's like each one is a little different, and the rate at which you feed it and all the temperature you keep it at, all this stuff kind of will affect it. So
well,
it's not,
yet another reminder that this isn't cooking; it's chemistry.
very much.
Yeah.
Very much. And like bread and baked goods in general are so science based, and like that's I feel like what makes them so mysterious to people is because they are used to cooking where it's like a lot more sensory based, a lot more visual. The reactions happen like much in real time, so you're kind of like seeing, you toss
Yeah.
something in a pan, you see it cooking. That's pretty straightforward. But like baking is like you
Yeah.
have to mix. What if the mixture is wrong before you even put it in the oven? What if the oven temperature is wrong? And so it's like a lot more of a delayed effect for a lot of things.
It's
much
baking
like-
is a place where you have to follow the recipe at least for a while.
Yeah, you really
because
do.
it's-
You really do.
Yeah.
Or at least really know the science behind it.
Yeah.
And then also some
Yeah.
experience
How
behind
did
it
you
too.
learn the science behind it?
Just trial and error, honestly.
When you
Like-
first started baking bread, you
Are there
were
any-
just
Oh,
winging
yeah,
it,
100%.
self-taught.
Self-taught.
Wow.
And I've not taken any like official like bread courses. I have been fortunate enough to like stage at like Tartine Bakery in San Francisco
Oh.
in the manufactory. So I got like, staging experience there, but that's
What's
not even.
what's that?
That's where you like go like intern for 2 days.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
okay,
So you go
yeah.
like check it out
Yeah.
and like feel the dough, hear from the bakers, maybe get to handle this or that, or at least just like see the temperatures and the textures that they're doing. I did take a panettone class from Roy, I should say, but yeah, like really just self-taught. I'm like pattern recognition person, so I'll really like be like, okay, I see that, I see that, and make an inference, and
Sure.
will kind of change my step the next time as much as I can, and that's guided me this whole way. And like now it will let me show the new baker, be like, okay, look at all of these things that they've been doing the thing, and then like, oh, I see all of these like points that I was missing.
Yep,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
It just helps me.
Is there a
like that.
Bible, a book that you
I
use?
love books for baking. It's like been what I learned on initially for sure. Like
Tartine, for sure.
Tartine, yeah, that one, yes, but like more for like visual aesthetic information. Local Breads from Daniel Leader was a huge book, like the right away.
Oh.
So he owns Bread Alone in New York, like Yountsville, or in New York City, upstate New York, excuse me. And that was like I baked like many loaves out of that one for the first years. And the La Brea Bakery book,
Yeah.
Nancy Silverton was a big one.
Yep.
And then Tartine came along a little later. Like it was already out, but I wasn't really aware of it, bread cultural wise, until like I kind of was on Instagram and I was like, seeing their impression.
How young were you when you started all of this?
21,
Yeah,
20.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm not super, I'm pretty young though. Yeah.
You made me think of Sarah Black,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
departed Sarah Black,
Sure.
and her One Dough, 10 Breads
Mhm.
book, which she truly was in a mission to demystify
Yeah.
as much as she could.
Sure.
I got the
Yeah.
book.
Said,
Yeah, same.
miss her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful lady.
Oh, absolutely.
Gone too soon.
Most definitely.
Well, one of the things that you were saying, it's fun to watch what's happening in a chemical sense of the reaction. I think the no-knead bread phase, about 5 years ago, or maybe
Yeah.
more out of the
Like
times,
Jim
and
Leahy,
then
I
it's the almost no-knead bread
Yeah.
phase. It's fun. You wake up in the morning, and 18 hours later, is it bubbling enough?
Yeah,
exactly. yeah.
And end up with a crusty loaf out of your home oven is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And it is so simple too. And I feel like it is important to demystify it for people, because it's like, and it is like time work, but it's not a lot of like active work per loaf necessarily.
No, hardly.
It's really
any.
like, hardly any. And you just kind of like be paying attention to it and making sure that the steps are right and
I
the
think we
temperatures
can
are
make
right.
it in 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And then just let it fester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds so good.
Yummy.
For 18 hours.
That's our cooking term. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, I mean, we like to ask our guests where you like to go to eat. Where you, I mean, is your bread the only bread you eat, or?
Well, bread-wise, pretty much for sure, because it's like
It's there.
it's always there
I
to
mean,
me,
it's
and it's like
the
the best
best.
thing that I
Yeah.
can make, so why would I, I'll sample other people's breads sometimes, but like even then I'm like, I can see it with my eyes, and I know, and I don't have a lot of like appetite for bread that's not like so
Yeah.
yummy, you
Yeah.
know? So breads and baked goods, I'm like pretty particular on my own stuff, and especially like using all organic and
So, but
like
then
French
going
butter and
out-
that kind of thing.
But just going out?
I love to cook on my own too. I mean, North Star's always a vibe. Brassica's a vibe. I wish like Elena was still around. Elena's Food and
Yeah.
Wine. That
Well
was kind
done.
of like my favorite back in the day.
Yeah.
Don't go to a ton of places like in the city right now,
Did your habits change much because of the pandemic?
Yes, most definitely. I feel like pre-pandemic I was going out a lot more, and there were a lot more like valid fine dining options all around. And even in Cincinnati, Please, I don't know if you heard of it. It was so good. It was like a small plates kind of tasting menu vibe. It was so good, and it closed as a result of the pandemic. The owner was immunocompromised.
Scary
and all.
times.
Yeah,
Well, it's a
so it changed
wonderful
everything
thing,
so
but
much.
there are challenges that go along with
It's a calculated risk.
Yes, very much.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us
It's
so
my
much.
pleasure.
It's been
Absolutely.
really nice to have you. I hope you come back again sometime.
I would love to.
Great. That is Dan Riesenberger. He's of Dan the Baker fame. He is another James Beard nominee for Best Bakery in the country. Steve Stover, we have a few minutes left. And do we have any
Yes.
news?
Well, there's plenty of news on the Columbus restaurant scene.
Squeeze what you can. in.
And real quickly, Columbus Monthly just came out with its top 10 new restaurants, and I thought it was very instructive and very different. A couple sort of surprises. The locally owned Jeans in downtown Dublin, which has associated with it the Coast Wine House. And so
It's getting very good reviews.
we've got to get there. Butchered Rose, the upscale Cameron Mitchell downtown steakhouse. Taj on Fifth, an updated Indian restaurant in Grandview from the folks that own the old Taj Mahal restaurant. That was
The campus Taj
back
Mahal?
on campus, yeah. Chouette, the little French bistro from at the corner of Gay and High.
The new hot spot in town.
Yes,
Among
the new
the-
culinary center of Columbus. Flower Modern Pasta Bar, a great value restaurant from the folks at Rue Indian, but it's a fixed price $28 menu
Oh.
centered on pasta.
This is out at Polaris, right?
I think so. Yeah. Kung Fu Noodles in my hood is a hand pulled
Which would
noodle
be
bar.
Upper Arlington.
And this would be on Go Down Road at Bethel. Kung Fu Noodles. Cameron Mitchell's Del Mar Mediterranean, which is an offshoot of the old Del Mar SoCal downtown, but it's really an offshoot of their Del Mar Mediterranean in Naples, Florida. Littleton's Market Cafe, of all places, is a top 10 new restaurant in Columbus, and
Best smash burger in town.
it is really.
Yeah, really good.
He's an expert on smash burgers.
It's important.
For sure.
Shawnee Station Tap Room and Kitchen. I do not know that. It's an upscale brew pub in Shawnee Hill. So there are 10.
That's new. That was the old golfy placey thing.
No,
it's
they
not.
tore that down. But
Okay.
that's in the very neighborhood. So that's Columbus Monthly's top 10 new restaurants, and I think it's very diverse. Everything from Indian to French. Oh, Calero's Bar and Grill, an authentic Salvadorian restaurant.
Okay.
In the,
God,
in the
don't you just love being able to say that here in
Salvador, yeah,
Columbus,
I know.
there's that much diversity now. That's we go back to the old, the ideas about Columbus.
Truly.
If
Right?
you got a
Steakhouse,
Yeah,
blah, blah.
100%.
What's your favorite?
one of our
Napoli
favorite
restaurant?
new things is the Columbus food letter from our friends Bethia Wolf
Yeah.
Who we're
And-
going to be
and-
having on soon.
and Aaron Edwards.
Oh, fun.
And they pronounced the fact that Columbus is so diverse that there are now foods representing 72 countries
Isn't that
Really?
wonderful?
Awesome.
in the Columbus area. So
How lucky are we?
that's a happy note
Seriously.
to end on.
Well, thank you, Steve, for that little update. And Dan Riesenberger, thanks again for
my
joining
pleasure.
us. That's Dan the Baker. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Chefs in the City. You can find us wherever you get your podcast. You can find us on Facebook at Ann Fisher's Chefs in the City. Our email is chefsinthecity111@gmail.com. And remember, a great meal is best shared. So share this with your friends near and far. Next time we visit with, I think, Josh Wickham of Columbus State's School of Hospitality Management and Culinary Arts. So join us for that. And in the meantime, thank you.
Boxland Media. Think big.